This feels really, really weird. I am used to being on that side of you, but we had to channel our welcome, foolish mortals.
Yeah, this feels like switching sides of the bed. It's weird.
I can't. Next time we're going back because this is odd.
All right, so today we're talking about how a side hustle helped us move to Disney World. So this is a little financial update.
All right, let's do it. Okay, before we get started, we're gonna do a little shameless plug for that side hustle, which is now gonna be our focus full-time for both of us, and that is our new travel agency, Fantastical Vacations. I'd say new, but it's been in existence for a year now, which is a little bit crazy. We actually did a video similar to this back in January, and it was kind of like everything that we've done to set ourselves up for this. But we hadn't bought the house yet. We didn't know everything we were really fully doing to do this. So here we are 9 months later, and let's get into it.
Okay, while we are gonna be specifically talking about our journey, you know, chasing and achieving your dreams is really possible and achievable for everyone. You just have to really focus on your finances and making some of those tough decisions and changes in your life.
Absolutely, yeah. So really, I mean, this is our journey, but the big message we want to get across is if you dream about doing whatever, if it's moving to Disney World like us two crazy fools, or whatever it is, like just go after it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it before, but we did talk about a lot of the background kind of leading up to this video. So that video I will link in a card up here, but if you want to check it out, it's called Quitting Our Jobs to Move to Disney World, and it was published back in January.
And if you like the content that we put out, it really helps us out if you'll just hit that like and subscribe button, and then more people will find us. When I first dreamed of becoming a travel agent, like I never in a million years thought that this was possible. It really was something that was a little side hustle. It was just something that I did because I absolutely loved it. I loved planning vacations for other people. But people back then even asked, like, are you aiming for this to take over your full-time job? And I said, no, no way, never.
And it was true at the time. Like we had no idea because, I mean, we were full-time professionals, both of us working. Yeah. Kids were old enough that we were both, like we were both in the office all the time. And honestly, you didn't have a ton of time to dedicate to it anyway. So it really was a passion project. You did it because you liked doing it. And then I think because you were so passionate about it and we kind of were able to do it together in a way, like we had fun doing it together and that just grew. And so we really have been lucky, but that's really the key.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having that conversation whenever things were starting to pick up speed a little bit, and I looked at Dan and said, I think that I might be able to cut down to part-time. And then I went, holy cow, I might have to quit my full-time job. So it was
I was
definitely
like, whoa, Skippy, pump the brakes on that.
It was definitely just not something that I got into this with the intention of it becoming a full-time job.
So we're gonna break this down into 3 sections, and it's kind of just pretty basic, but what we've learned over the last year. So the first is kind of the setup, and this is gonna go back to that January video of kind of like how we set ourselves up for this. The second is the transition that we are about to go through here. And then the third is the sustainability and how we're setting ourselves up to continue this journey.
Yes. The setup, let's start there. So we decided that we really wanted to, initially it was have financial independence to travel. The initial thought was not to move to Disney World. We actually had the intention of taking our family on a family gap year. We were going to travel the world for a whole year, and then things changed, COVID happened, but we are happy with the direction that things are going. So we started making some massive changes. Matter of fact, we did a video a while back on the financial mistakes that we've made, to include that as you know, 40-year-old people, we have purchased 23 cars, which is embarrassing.
It's a little crazy.
So that was a huge mistake financially, but how we've recovered from that, and then the things that we have really done, the changes that we've made in order to get where we are.
Yeah, so that actually just was lucky because we were focusing on cutting our expenses so much that we could live just on the side hustle income like while we were traveling. And so that has very much helped set us up, that because we definitely will take a cut in income as we quit our full-time jobs permanently and then transition. There's going to be a build-up period, so that's the transition period. But so then the next thing we did was find our house and buy and close on our house in Orlando. So this is kind of our dream location. We've talked about a bunch on the channel, but this is definitely something we did to set ourselves up. We did this early enough that we didn't stress ourselves out. So I think that was a huge decision that actually really helped a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
The next thing we had to do was actually tell our work that we were planning on quitting. So we did this way early.
Much earlier than probably most people would.
Definitely way earlier than giving 2 weeks notice, but we wanted to be fair to our jobs, and we wanted to be able to share this whole moving and planning and this whole process with all of you. And we didn't want this secret that we were putting out on YouTube to get back to our work and then it'd be a whole thing. So we actually told our jobs a year in advance, and they were both extremely supportive, still are very, very supportive. So we're very appreciative of that. But that was kind of the first step.
Yeah, and a scary one at that. And then finally in the setup, we have been planning our move. And this has kind of changed over time. We were originally going to pack up our entire house and leave December 26th. We are now kind of doing the move in pieces. We've gone down a few times in the last several months since purchasing our house and taken as much as we possibly could in suitcases and such whenever we fly. I'm sure airport security thinks we're completely nuts, but
yeah, a coffee maker in your check-in? Okay.
But then we also made the decision that we are driving in an upcoming trip that's like end of October, beginning of November, where we're going to move half of our house to just kind of try to alleviate that stress of moving everything all at once.
Next, we're going to talk about the actual transition. And so this actually starts at the end of the year and will probably go through at least all of next year, if not the following 2 years. And so this is essentially the process of quitting our jobs, getting off that paycheck, and then starting to transition into getting full-time income from our side hustle, which is now our business. Now we're gonna be both focused on it as soon as I get there at the end of January, and we are both going to be putting all of our time and effort. And so we want to see that growth, and we want to be able to bring that value and all of that content to all of you and all of our podcast listeners, and then really, hopefully, expand from there.
It would be really easy to treat the move like a constant vacation. But we obviously have to be very mindful of how we're spending our money. And so we have kind of set it up in a way where we have pots of money that we're pulling from for different things that we need. So we know that there are some changes that we wanted to make to the house. We kind of set up how much money we wanted to spend just on that piece of it, and that is in one pot. And then we know that we're probably gonna have to update on our car once we get to Florida, and so that's in another pot of money.
Yeah, and then the biggest piece of this transition period is the last pot of money, and that is our runway. So we'll start the transition here with income, with expenses here, and then we'll drop to here with income, and then build that up. Hopefully we don't drop as far, you know.
Yeah.
But that runway will really, really help, because during this transition, however long it takes between going from full-time incomes plus side hustle up through focusing full-time on what used to be side hustle, now the business, there is definitely going to be a period of time where we have to supplement with the runway, and we'll see how long that takes. But transitioning out of the transition period, if you can follow that, is basically when that happens. So when we are able to start fully supporting all of our expenses from
just the income. So last but not least,
you said so again.
Okay, looking at the long, I wanted to so bad. looking at the long term, we want to continue to learn and to grow. Obviously, we want to keep our priorities in place. Travel is still hugely important to us, and we want to be able to show our kids the world. We want to be able to travel to all the places that we were originally planning on traveling to at our family gap year and see all of those things that we had researched and fallen in love with. So we are looking forward to learning more and growing during that process.
Yeah, and coming out of the transitionary period into that long-term sustainability period, we fully anticipate that as we make that turn, we don't stop growing, we don't stop learning, we don't stop researching new destinations, new things about the parks. We just continue to build on that, and that is how we sustain this thing going forward. That brings us to the update, and here's where things get a little tricky. So we talked a lot in those Financial Independence to Travel videos about lowering your expenses while increasing your income if possible. We did that through the side hustle and maximizing savings rate.
Yes.
The problem is our savings rate has gone down a lot since we closed on the house, because now we have a rent payment and a house payment and 2 sets of utility bills and basically everything that goes into owning a house.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge. It was a calculated challenge. Luckily, we were able to establish what we wanted for those pots of money early, and because we had been saving for over 2 years, we were able to fill most of that before those added expenses of having that house hit.
In January, the added expense of the rental house will fall off, and the extra expenses of having 2 houses. But so will Dan's full-time income. So, so we kind of still have to play this this balancing act for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So our savings rate, it got up to, I don't even remember the last update we did, but it was around 60%, maybe even been higher than 60%. Now we're like basically breaking even, and over the next 4 months or so, we will hopefully come out with a little bit of savings. We are definitely gonna have to watch our expenses, and we are hopefully going to not treat living in Orlando as a complete vacation. That is something that's probably gonna be one of the biggest challenges when we get down there, is because every time we go to Orlando, we are used to going on vacation mode, and for 7 to 10 days, like, who cares? Yeah, let's go out to eat, let's buy this, buy that, souvenirs, yay! And we can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Although I do think that our focus is going to change a little bit on where we spend money whenever we do get down there, because right now we spending money on like movies and going places around town and stuff like that, that we don't tend to do that very often. But I think that we're going to have to adjust, because we want to do those things once we get there, because we want to do exploring. So we're gonna have to pull money back from somewhere else and be very cognizant of that.
So essentially, we're kind of starting over from where we were almost 3 years ago. We started that whole Financial Independence to Travel journey back in early 2019. We had no idea that we were gonna be moving to Orlando at the time. Yeah. We didn't know that we were going to be even considering a gap year full-time travel for a while. I mean,
it's true.
So many things have happened. But we're basically starting over from that point with just figuring out what expenses we're gonna have. I mean, we're gonna have similar expenses, utilities, house payment, living, you know, transportation, all of that stuff, but we've just gotta relearn what those are gonna be, because a lot of them are different from here to there. An example is internet is a lot cheaper there.
Oh, yes.
Shockingly enough.
And better.
And better. But there's a lot of expenses that are more expensive there too. So like food is typically a little more expensive. It's in a tourist corridor. So there's some give and take there and some balancing that we just have to figure out when we get there.
But the biggest difference is that we will have achieved location independence and financial independence to travel. And both of those are hugely important to us. So
all of that being said, if you have considered starting a side hustle to either become more location independent, financially independent, or just gain some extra income, like, this is a real thing that you can do.
Yes.
Find something that you're passionate about and you can monetize that somehow to follow your dreams. And so we would honestly encourage everyone that has even thought about branching out and trying something new, do it.
Do it. Follow your dreams. There you have it. Thank you so much for joining us on this video. If you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And then also, you can check us out if you're a podcast listener. Addicted to the Mouse, we publish our podcast twice weekly on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Absolutely. We will see you on the next video.
Bye.